Why is there a difference in the language that lawyers and judges and doctors and politicians and bankers speak and use, as opposed to or in contrast to what the general public uses? Have you ever asked yourself this question? Even the military inclusive. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is because, and you can think about this, you can ponder on this after you watch this video maybe a couple times. This is because they have set up a distinction between themselves and the general public. The general public is just that, the public, the general public. Once they have left the ranks, so to speak, of the average individual on the street, as it were, and they have become a part of these institutions. These institutions to them are like a brotherhood, a club that's in a higher echelon as compared to the general public. They say that they represent the people. All of these vocations say this. Doctors say that they represent the people. They're there to help the people. Lawyers say that they're there to help the people. Judges say the same. Police officers say the same. Politicians say the same. And even the military. But what lies beneath all of this rhetoric, I should say? I got a little tongue-tied there for a moment because I was going to say something different. But what is actually beneath all of this imagery? Why can't a doctor just say when an individual has cut their hand, they have a cut? The doctor says they have a laceration. Why is it that when they're going to sew you up, they say that they're going to suture you? And as opposed to saying during a surgery procedure, hurry up, they say stat. I'm sure you get the point. And as it relates to lawyers and judges, when you go to court, you hear terms such as de jure, de facto, citizen, person, standing, understanding, and a whole list of thousands of other terms that they use. Defendant, prosecutor, all of these words we think are seemingly innocent, but the lawyers and judges have a different dictionary that they use as related to the ones that's used in the general public. They have a law dictionary whereby you will see not only words that you've never seen and or heard in the general public. Once you enter into their forum, you will also see many, many words that you use every single day of your life, and you have since you was a child all the way through your adulthood. You will see those same words with different meanings. How is it that those words can mean one thing to the public, but when you get into a court system, they mean something totally different? For example, and I won't keep you hanging, the word person. The word person in Black's dictionary means a corporation. The word children means corporation and not a child or a small human being. And when you ask a lawyer to quote from Black's Law Dictionary, and usually the fourth edition and before, what a man is, and the dictionary actually does say this, and you can look it up for yourself. A man is more or less a human being. So what does this tell you? Hold 1 second. Anytime things are getting good, there's always a disruption of some sort. It just seems to play out that way. But anyway, when you're in court and you hear the term de jure, what it refers to, and the term that's the opposite of that is de facto. It's talking in terms of law and that which is supposed to be true. De jure would be an accurate depiction of law. De facto would mean something that appears to be law, but it's not actually the real law. So why are these words even utilized in the industry, so-called legal industry, or concerning justice, unless there's something maybe awry there? Even when you're dealing with a police officer, he or she is supposed to be protecting the citizen. They're supposed to be public servants, protecting and serving. I'm sure we've seen this and heard this moniker so many times, and we have even seen it printed on their vehicles, to protect and serve. But are they really protecting and serving us? Their language is different from the average citizen's language. You hear the term warrant. We know what a warrant is for the most part. It means you have to have permission from a judge or a signed contract or piece of paper from a judge stating that you're supposed to have signed permission to go through a person's personal belongings, to search their houses, their automobiles, their person even. You're supposed to have permission to do that, and that's supposed to be granted to you, the police officer, from a judge. But most of us know that police search your vehicles and your homes without a warrant, unlawfully. I won't use the term legal. And while I mentioned the term legal, let me say this. Legal has its own ramifications as well. Legal is not a lawful term. It is a term that was created by the system for the system's benefit. So why is that? So I've touched on the doctors in brevity. I've touched on the judges and the lawyers in short as well. And I've touched on the police officer. Even when you're dealing with politicians, they use terminology and expressions that the average person can't really relate to. But they're all interwoven together in that they don't really represent you and I. They represent what they can get from you and I. It is their job to keep us as serfs, as peasants, as slaves to the system, while they stay in their hierarchy or in their positions of being the 1%, of being those who actually sit on the seat of power over society or over several societies. They don't want you and I to have an equal or level playing field with them. We are no one to them. When a police officer pulls you over, how many times do you leave that situation not paying something? Do you receive what they call a citation? Have you been cited? They call it a ticket traditionally. You've been cited. So what does that equal to? What is a citation? It is something that has a dollar amount attached to a statute, an ordinance, or a policy that you have broken, so they say. If you went over the speed limit, you went over a yellow line in the street, even jaywalking, even throwing a piece of paper on the ground, it has, and they have, a dollar amount attached to them. Can you not get the big picture that all of this boils down to just generating revenue? That is the purpose. It is only to generate revenue or money for the state, the county, the local municipality, the city. That's the purpose of a police officer. They are a policy officer. Yes, they're going to respond to a gunshot incident, but someone's going to pay. The person that was the perpetrator is going to pay either in a fine or in jail time, or both. It's all about being paid. if you look at it the way it's supposed to be looked at and not through some rose-colored glasses. So take the veil off of your eyes, ladies and gentlemen, and see things the way they really were designed and the way that they really are. When was the last time that you have ever seen any politician keep their promises to the people? When they campaign for governor, mayor, even president of the United States, they will have all of the bells and the whistles, all of the hooplas, all of the seemingly good intentions in the world, saying all of the things that they know we want to hear. But once they have been sworn in and they have achieved their goal, they never address your issues. In my lifetime, and if you're honest with yourselves, if you're a baby boomer or otherwise, if you're honest with yourselves, we still have the same problems that we have always had. They have never been ratified. They've never been corrected or rectified. Why? Why do we still have an alarming amount of poverty in the United States? With the change of each administration, it goes up a little bit and it goes down. Why is it that we have such an alarming amount of poverty and unemployment and homelessness in America? That which is supposed to be the greatest country on the planet. At least that's what all of the politicians tout. The presidents have said that numerous times over decades. This is the greatest country on the planet. But we do our veterans and the general population such a disservice by overtaxation. Are you part of that victimization? In other words, have you been victimized by your own so-called country? When was the last time that you had to work one job and not 2 or 3 jobs just to provide for the mediocre things that you need in your home, just the basics in your home? And we want to call that, the economy is changing and, it's inflation and so on and so forth. Inflation is created by the system for its own benefit. Do you not know that? Why is it that all of these congressmen, all of these senators, and the president of the United States, all of the governors of the states, and the mayors, and all of the other people in high offices, why are their pockets always lined, but the people that they say that they serve are suffering? Are we a third world country? Or do they desire us to be a third world country where you have all of these people that are so downtrodden and beat down and oppressed that they have to rise up against the regime? It's only a matter of time. And the people are awakening now, and they have been doing so over the past decade or so, awakening to the truth and what's really, really going on. I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to throw this out here. For those who believe that they're in control and that your vote makes a difference, you can vote all you want to. You're not voting that individual into office. That person or that individual is placed in the office. They are selected. We are electing people, but they are actually selected by someone else. Do you honestly believe that Barack Obama was placed in office by the people? The numbers might say that it was overwhelmingly in his favor, but ultimately the decision was made by someone else. If they did not want Obama to be in office, he would have never been in there. And when I say they, I'm talking about the powers that sit behind the closed doors that most people don't know about. the big corporations and the banksters that own the world, and also the United States that you think is a country. They are the ones that's pulling the strings, not the figureheads that you see on your television daily. So do you think Donald Trump is actually controlling the United States? No. He's being told what to do. Just like Bill Clinton was told what to do. Just like Barack Obama was told what to do. And then there's a price to pay when you don't follow instructions. They know when they go into that office what's expected of them. And everything else is everything else. We are collateral damage. And it doesn't matter as long as they are receiving the benefits that was promised to them and their family. Hard pill to swallow, is it not? I know it is for a lot of you. A lot of you probably can't stand to hear this. A lot of you have blinders on and will never see and or hear this and understand it because you don't want to accept the truth for what it really is. The American people don't control America. We're supposed to. It's supposed to be a government of we the people, by the people, for the people. But it's the 1% that controls us. So you need to, as Earl Pitts used to say, wake up, America. But as I was going to say a moment ago about the rights that you think you have or believe that you have, let's take this scenario and I will leave you. If John and his wife Mary were going to have a child, Mary's pregnant, she's in her 9th month, she's in labor, so she's admitted to the hospital. After she has the baby leaves her, in other words, the baby is birthed into the world. Let John and Mary try to take their newborn baby out of the hospital without signing any papers, without filling out the application for the birth certificate of live birth, that is. See if the police will not be called on John and Mary for kidnapping. Do you want me to repeat that again? You can just rewind this video and hear me say it again. One more time. If you or anyone else has a wife that's having a baby in the hospital, the baby's already been delivered, the doctor said you have a healthy baby boy, and then they come in with a clipboard and some papers for you to fill out. Now I'm talking about martial law right now, police law, military law. I'll dare you to not sign any papers to get your baby, your new baby boy, get your clothes on, and walk out the front door of that hospital and see if you're not stopped. And if you make it out of the hospital, they will have the police come and get you. They'll have you arrested for kidnapping. You know why? Your baby is a resident of the state. Your baby, your child belongs to the state, and the state wants you to sign the papers that will give them permission to have your child as a ward of the state. Just as you are a ward of the state, and the same scenario played out when you were born. Every human being that's born into America has their lives signed over to the state in which they were born. If you don't know this already, ladies and gentlemen, you just ought to open your eyes. This is just one truth. How far do you want to go down the rabbit hole? When are you actually going to understand or even overstand that things are not what they appear to be? I really didn't plan on going the direction in which I did in this particular video, but it must have been for a purpose. So if you have any comments on this subject and your freedoms and or liberties, I would be interested in knowing what your feelings are. Do you believe that you've been duped? Do you believe that you've been bamboozled, as one individual said many years ago? Do you believe that you've been tricked? It's not impossible. Could you possibly have been living in one reality in your mind, but actually in another reality unknown to you? Are we in a matrix, ladies and gentlemen? And many of us don't realize it. And some of us might be aware, but don't really want to accept it, because it tears down the belief systems that we've had most of our lives since childhood. And it brings about a cognitive dissonance that we don't want to deal with, that things are not what they have appeared to be. I always say this to you. May the Almighty bless you, and that He does love you, and I love you as well. I hope that you are not so incensed that you become angry with me. Be angry with the system that created the system, and do your own research. You don't have to believe anything that I'm telling you. You don't have to stay on this video, on this platform, and listen to me. You don't have to. But you know what? I've said this in time past before, and this is my moniker. Just because you don't accept what I'm saying to you doesn't mean that it's not true. Now, are you man or woman enough to put on your big boy and big girl pants, stand firmly on your square, on your flat feet, and be what God decided and determined you to be? And that is a full-grown man and woman, not having your rights assuaged by anyone, any entity at all. You are special. You are beautiful. You are God's creation. But understand this, that part of God's creation is not following God, and they have committed crimes against humanity. And the enemy is within. This is Brother Teacher. I'll see you in the next video. So long.